Yeah, I think going back into the debate, I think at the very beginning is when Trump kind of took a tremendous lead, maybe in like the first 10 to 15 minutes. I mean, let's be real, his Gish Gallops was on point. He had Joe Biden on his toes for quite a while, in my opinion. But I think overall, uh, Donald Trump really started to fall apart. And he kind of looked too Brutus up there. I think this specific times where him being a brute is very beneficial. But I just don't think it reflected well off him in that overall debate.
It doesn't
what do
work
you guys
as
think?
well against a softy like Joe Biden, to be quite honest with you. Against someone who's hard and callous like Hillary Clinton, yeah, that shit looks fire. But got to tone
I
it
mean, I
back.
think it's
Come in
yeah.
2
I think it
weeks.
definitely comes to like when he does it, when to push the issues, and when to let him speak and obviously self detonate. But what about you guys? Yeah, what do you think?
Through like towards the end, like he was trying to like he kept on interrupting him, and then like he came up with the rule of the 2 minutes. Overall, like from what I saw from like the part where they were talking about law and order, I feel like Donald Trump most definitely got punked Joe Biden out on that right there.
Yeah, and I think that's one example of him being Brutus and it being very beneficial. Like,
Yeah.
for example, when he was talking about the law enforcement and how no law enforcement agencies or organizations are for Joe Biden. And Joe Biden was like, yes, they are. And he asked them to name one multiple times. And Joe Biden couldn't. It made Joe Biden look extremely weak. And that's what Donald Trump needs to do. He needs to make Joe Biden look as weak as possible every single chance he gets. And he's not going to do that by just talking over him 24/7. With that being said, I see a lot of comments, especially a lot of Trump tards, talking about how Mike Wallace, how Chris Wallace was a horrible, biased moderator.
I think that hurt Trump a little bit too, because right out the gate, Trump was saying, "Okay, I guess I'm debating you too." I mean, especially at the beginning, that moderating was actually like A grade, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Chris Wallace did a phenomenal job moderating. He asked fair questions to both sides.
He's flaming both of them. He's flaming
Exactly.
both of them.
But I guess going kind of to the first thing they were talking about, Brandon, what do you think about the whole issue with the Supreme Court nomination?
I think the presidential's right. We as the people voted for them, and Donald Trump brought up a good point. He said I was elected for 4 years, not 3. If I was Biden, I would have hammered home, where were you when Obama was president and that shit happened to him? I would have hammered that home if I was Biden.
That's really the only defense that you can go with is the hypocrisy defense, because obviously what he said is very literate to a lot of Americans thinking, oh, yeah, he's elected for 4 years. There's a Senate majority as Republicans. So deductively, it seems very, easy to say, he should nominate
We already
justice.
had our voice, and that was a fire argument, but Joe Biden missed out on the opportunity to call out the hypocrisy in the Republican Party.
Joe Biden's arguments, honestly, I feel like had very little substance when it comes to that. And I also liked how, like we were saying before, how Donald Trump should make Joe Biden seem as meek as possible. When he was saying, I forgot the specific context of what this came up, but I'm pretty sure this was like very early on in the debate. When he was saying like how the radical left is going to dominate Joe Biden, even though I don't like the approach of saying that Joe Biden is like some kind of socialist, because obviously it's far from the truth. I wouldn't even consider Bernie Sanders a true socialist. But to say that there's going to be mass influence from the far left, I think is a lot more plausible in terms of I think it is a little more fair, but at the same time, I think a lot more Americans could see that as being the reality compared to he's just being a socialist, which obviously is just incorrect.
Well, if we're being honest, the Americans don't understand what the word socialism means. So when at this point, Republicans have done a good job hammering home that socialism is inherently authoritarian and bad and scary. And people are scared of that. So you label Joe Biden a socialist.
And I think the left do a horrible job at explaining it. I've never heard Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or anyone from the DNC ever explain what socialism is. Obviously, just meaning the collective ownership of the means of production. But I've never heard those words come out of any of their mouths. And I really wonder why, considering that this gives so much firepower to the right to villainize them for this, even when they're not socialists.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So moving on to the second issue, when they're talking about COVID, how do you guys feel that conversation went?
Segment wasn't really that good in my opinion. They were bickering about like them wearing masks and not wearing masks, and Donald Trump was freaking out about that. And he was wearing
Trump
masks.
pulled out that mask. I got a mask right here. What's
right here? You think about
Yeah, you got to respect it though. I will say you got to respect it. He brought out the prop. He brought out the Carfax.
Like they stopped talking about Trump not wearing a mask after that.
Well, he said he's like I wear a mask when I need to and when I don't.
That's yeah.
And
But I
like
mean,
at
I think
that
the
point,
main point is, and Joe Biden didn't really jump on it as much as he should, is Donald Trump's rhetoric is very anti-science when it comes to masks. Masks has been empirically proven to be beneficial in terms of slowing the spread of a disease, and Donald Trump has minimized that on multitude of times. And Joe Biden should have pointed that out. However, he didn't. But yeah,
Yeah, I
no.
think
What I
Wallace did a
really
good
liked
job.
from Joe Biden from that segment, I would say the first segment talking about the judicial nomination, I would say Trump probably won that segment. I would say COVID was probably a split. I really liked when Joe Biden was tying in that keeps trying to appeal Obamacare and take away people's health insurance during a pandemic.
Where I feel that Trump kind of messed up on the COVID is when he brought up the H1N1 swine flu and said that Joe
H1N1,
Biden, yeah, H1N1, and he said that Joe Biden and Obama dealt with that horribly. I mean, that was such an easy point to refute. He literally just read the numbers. Okay, yeah, we had like what 15,000 deaths. You have over 200,000.
Yeah, in no way were those two things synonymous. Why I was saying I feel like it's kind of like a tit for tat, and they're kind of equal on the COVID discussion. Because I did like when Donald Trump was saying that how Joe Biden was calling him xenophobic for banning China, and how many experts, including Dr. Fauci, was saying that we shouldn't ban travel from China. At the same time, we have like Nancy Pelosi, for example, in like late February, talking about going to Chinatown and telling
Go
people
hug
to
a
like,
China
go
person.
out. Yeah, exactly. A China person, nice. But yeah, and then Donald Trump kept harping on, his China ban and how that saved, multitude of lives, which is obviously very.
What was his numbers?
Very
Like
plausible.
projected like 2 million were supposed to die, and it's down to 200,000 now. If he didn't ban travel to
I
China,
I don't think there's any like legitimacy to those numbers, considering we don't know how much was actually in China. One, and two, the numbers of how many people were supposed to die have been all over the place for this entire pandemic for the last 9 months or so. So I don't think there's any kind of legitimacy to that. So the next kind of a sub question. This wasn't really like a main topic. Is when they were talking about will he fill up Supreme Court seats by having extra Supreme Court seats than what is already there? And Joe Biden could not answer the question. And that's one example of when Donald Trump pushed and pushed and pushed on that and used this kind of Brutus attitude that was very beneficial to him because it made Joe Biden, one, look obviously indecisive, but also weak and not wanting to commit to anything.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Not much more to add.
One thing I did like about the economic discussion was when Donald Trump was mentioning how he brought 700,000 manufacturer jobs back, which is verifiably correct, especially in states like Ohio, Michigan. And under the Obama administration, we saw very little gains or losses when it comes to manufacturing jobs. And then he brought it all home when he was saying that that Obama and Joe Biden, what do they say, forgot about manufacturing or gave up on manufacturing. He used some kind of terminology like that.
Yeah, he said they gave up on it.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought that was a very good point.
Yeah.
Especially since that's such a big issue for a lot of working class people and a lot of people within these swing states right now, like I was saying, like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan.
I thought it was funny when Trump said Ohio. He's like, hey.
I didn't notice that, but this
shit was funny, bro. Every time he said Ohio, he said it with his accent, whatever, his little New York accent. This shit was funny.
No, I didn't even notice it, to be honest. I mean, let's be honest. That was that was one of the funniest debates I've ever seen. Granted, the funniest moment in any debate of all time: Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, because you'd be in jail. Greatest moment in American history, right there. I don't know if I ever mentioned this to you guys before. That's actually what got me into politics. Is I saw that on probably Reddit or something. I don't know where I saw that at. It was years ago. And because of that, I got into politics. I was like, I gotta check this shit out right now. That was savage as fuck.
But just roasting people.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and I feel like Donald Trump had a lot of those shots that were actually probably beneficial to him. At least, entertaining for me at the very least. A few was when he was talking about they were talking about shutdowns, and then Donald Trump was talking, and Joe Biden tried to talk over him, and he's like, "Let me shut you down for a second," and he started going into his point.
That shit was funny. Yeah,
yeah, I thought that was hilarious. What do you guys think about when he was when Joe Biden was talking about Donald Trump has to get a whole lot smarter if you want to treat the COVID better. And Donald Trump was smart? Don't talk about smart with me. You graduated last in your class or whatever he was going on about that.
That shit was funny. That was some rich white boy shit right there.
With all those being said, I think my favorite one still has to be when they were talking about rally sizes.
Oh my
They were like,
gosh.
yeah, Joe Biden has been like very small rallies because of different COVID strategies. This is Mike Wall. I keep saying Mike Wallace. He's not the receiver from the Steelers and Dolphins. Chris Wallace.
goat.
Yeah, debatable. Not even. He wasn't that good. Anyways, not political related. When Chris Wallace was talking about how the different COVID strategies have been like influenced like the size of the rallies compared to Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and how Donald Trump was like talking about Joe Biden's like small rallies. It's like, yeah, it's because no one would show up. And I love how like Chris Wallace, like you could see him like physically like trying not to laugh during it. That was hilarious.
Dude, he did laugh. Dude, he burst out laughing in that point. I was like, damn.
Oh yeah, no,
How do you feel about their topic on the Law and Order, Kristen?
yeah.
Would you like to elaborate?
Sure. Joe Biden cannot be. I think I've said this like before in previous discussions, but Joe Biden can't buy into this. Donald Trump was definitely baiting him the entire time to try to get Joe Biden to claim law and order and to denounce BLM or denounce Antifa. Just because if your issue is law and order, you're voting for Donald Trump. Let's just be honest. That's just what's going to happen. What Joe Biden needs to do is take the approach that we need to address these systemic racial issues, and that's how we'll get the law and order that we need, is to address these issues so that they don't have anything to protest for, because these are very important issues and they're backed in the empirical data.
So reform over just killing the protests entirely.
Exactly. I think one other thing that Joe Biden should have pushed was the Portland situation when they brought the National Guard in, just because there was a lot of very shady things going on in that situation.
Yeah, it was kind of sus, bro.
Yeah, very fast. Exactly. He's the imposter. Donald Trump's the imposter. Very fascist-esque things going on there.
I'm pretty sure they were given the green light for fucking the smallest thing, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly.
I'm like, hey, if anyone does this, you fucking let it rip. You know, I'm pretty sure they're given a very like small, like it just took a little bit to get them all going. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like all the videos that came out, like there was the one of like the police officers like marching down the streets, and there was like the people filming them sitting outside their house, and they shot them with rubber bullets because they wouldn't go inside. Like things like that are absolutely disgusting. And Joe Biden should have capped on that by mentioning those things and asking Donald Trump why that was the case and why he hasn't spoken on those things.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he's not the one that told them to go shoot that family sitting on their porch, though.
Right, but it was his order to bring the National Guard there in the first place, so he's thus responsible for that.
Because the city was like legit on fire, my guy. They were burning down buildings.
I mean, do you think that justifies shooting people for sitting in the front lawn?
No, but you're trying to talk about the why he brought in the National Guard.
I'm not inherently disagreeing with him bringing in the National Guard. I'm disagreeing with how the National Guard handled the situation.
Yes, I agree with that, but that's what I'm saying. Like, you need to make it clear that you agree with why the National Guard was there in the first place.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, obviously, when there's like rioting and looting, obviously that's not synonymous with like protest. So I do agree with that. The next issue I wanted to talk about, which I think was like the chronological next thing that occurred, was when they were talking about race. I think Donald Trump did an absolutely terrible job.
Good job.
Joe Biden wiped the floor with him when it came to the race discussion.
Because he did talk. Because Donald Trump said there was systemic racism. If he would have said there it was and talked about it, I think he would have been good. But he did not talk about it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I think some other things he could have harped on top of that is one, pushing that Joe Biden obviously supported the 1994 crime bill. I'm sorry, 1994, 1991, 94. He said it like once, right? Like very like slightly, like in passing, but he should have harped on that a lot more. And that's something where his kind of Brutus approach to things could have definitely been beneficial in that manner. And on top of that, talk about the first step back a lot more.
One thing Joe Biden did that I kind of liked how he pushed hard on this is it was him and the moderator. He pressured Trump into trying to get him to condemn white supremacy for whatever reason. And they called out the Proud Boys, and he messed up on this right here. He said, "Stand back and stand by," and you already know for the next 2 weeks that's what the media headlines are going to be running full steam ahead.
Oh, of course. I don't think it's that. Like, I don't know why it was so hard for him to do that, though. I mean, I know why it's so hard for him to do it, but you would think it should be easy.
And how did you feel about like when they were saying like Antifa like isn't a group? but it's an idea.
I mean, it isn't. It's it's a movement. Like there's
I had to
there's
turn
like
off of that. After Biden said it is a group, and then he backed off and he changed his mind. He was like, "No, it isn't. It's just an idea."
it's a group in a sense, but like it's not like an organization. Like there's no centralized there's no like centralized headquarters for Antifa or anything like that. You can't.
That's one of those
there's no
moments
like
that Trump
Antifa.
just kind of backed off and let Biden crash his own train.
Oh
Trump had to push hard and be his British self. A wise philosopher once said.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, him interrupting him so often, I think, kind of took away from some of the points in the debate, and it kind of made the whole thing about how
they were doing it to each other pretty good, though.
they were, but obviously Donald Trump was
Doing
probably
it more
80%
for
of
sure.
that.
He's
Exactly.
instigating it. I love it.
Oh, yeah, and I just love when he's like trying to like talk over the moderator. Excuse me.
Well, like, I feel like sometimes I feel like the moderator was against Trump, wouldn't let him defend himself against the question that Joe Biden had asked, and he'd start talking and going on, and
That
Joe
was
Biden
just the rules of the debate both campaigns had agreed upon.
Well, no,
no,
because after the 2 minutes, then they could talk to each other, and then they could ask each other questions. So they each get 2 minutes, and they talk and they elaborate more.
Right, but he has to stop it at some point, and someone's got to get the last word at some point. Yeah, after the whole climate discussion, or including the climate discussion, I feel like after that was just a clusterfuck. Nothing got done. Nothing was talked about. I don't really give a fuck about Trump's taxes when it let's say hypothetically he only paid $750 in taxes. Would you do anything different? Of course not. You're gonna pay as little taxes as long as you didn't do anything illegal. I don't give a fuck.
Actually, how do you feel about him, Donald Trump, calling him out about he's the one who made those tax things for him, to be able to not pay as much taxes because of him being a private corporation.
I don't know the
So
legitimacy of that
fucking stroke.
exactly, but that was a good point, especially since Joe Biden didn't dispute it.
Defend it. Yeah.
But yeah, like I was saying, he could have paid $0 in all taxes. It wouldn't bother me whatsoever. What would bother me is the legal capability to do so, not an individual doing that. Everybody with a choice to pay more or less taxes is going to pay less taxes. We're selfish inherently as humans. We're going to do that. Let's be honest. But yeah, and I think I hope I didn't skip any. I'm just trying to think chronological how they happened. I'm pretty sure the last one was then talking about the ballots.
Sure. Yeah, which I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, you went to sleep. I'm not sure on the legitimacy of actual them delivering multiple ballots. Or I haven't seen anything of them them finding ballots in the river or in the trash can or whatever. I'm not too sure about that. I think I need to look back up into that more. But I guess I'm on the fence about one not finding out right away, especially with mailed-in ballots, because the people are already getting mailed-in ballots and they're already sending them to the post office. But I can see why some people would speculate that something will happen to the ballots, because from point A to point B something can happen depending on who's willing to do something. You know what I mean? If they're willing to tamper with people's at this
Just look
point
up Ilhan Omar's controversy right now with the mail-in ballots.
Yeah, I think Chris Wallace touched on it pretty well when he was saying that the issue really isn't fraud, as Trump's claiming. Obviously, fraud has been historically very minimalistic when it comes to those kind of things. What the issue really comes down to is, are we going to be able to handle that mass amount of ballots coming in from the mail at one time? How long is it going to take to count all of them, and will all of them even get counted?
Yeah, I'm going to the vote, in person.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go in as well.
There's marker.
But yeah, no, another thing that I really like that Trump did and that I thought worked for him pretty well was he kept mentioning for pretty much every single subject or every single debate topic, he was mentioning Joe Biden, why don't you do anything about it in the 47 years you've been in office?
I've done more in 47 months than you have in 47 years.
Honestly, though, I was kind of thinking about this point that happened earlier in the debate when Chris Wallace was let him finish, and Joe Biden is he has no capability of doing that. And then Donald Trump's you'd be surprised. And then Joe Biden starts talking, and Donald Trump immediately cuts him off.
Oh my God.
Like, how
bro,
do you,
like,
how do you feel about like how they kept on like bickering back and forth and like fucking calling each other shit?
see, that's the thing is like
I mean,
Donald
that's what
Trump
I
looks really
expected.
bad because of it. But like Joe Biden could have looked so much better if he didn't like give in to that, because you can tell Joe Biden was getting like you can see him being physically angry.
Oh,
Like for
his
example,
smile
when
with
he told
his
him that,
gingers,
yeah,
his
when he
straight
told him to
ass
shut
fucking
up,
white teeth.
when he called Donald Trump a clown, like he
Clown,
he
yeah.
would have looked so much better if he didn't participate in that. But Donald Trump definitely got to him.
Got in his head. I'm in his head.
Exactly. But yeah, overall thoughts on the debate. I would say that personally, I think Joe Biden had a slight advantage. I would say Joe Biden won by like a very small margin, not because of the context of what he said, but I think Donald Trump kind of detonated himself.
I think
he was
all of Donald
constantly.
Trump's issues are like completely like fixable. Very simple.
What do you mean?
Well, if he just
What's up?
would shut up and let Biden implode, then he'd basically have the debate. Like if he literally
And
just sat
if
there
he
for
admitted
90
to
minutes and didn't say a damn word, he would have won the debate.
And if he would have said yes, systematic racism is a thing like he's had before. If he would have doubled down on it, it would have been a lot better.
See, the thing with it though, with Donald Trump is he can say yes, but he has to dog whistle at the same time to the far right. He has to say yes and then go into, but also many white people were killed by police or whatever the specific context of it is. And then he has to go and talk about Antifa after or whatever it is, dog whistling to the far right. So I think he
Just
does.
politics for you.
Exactly. I think he does believe that obviously systematic racism does exist, but there's like he can't admit it. Like he can't admit it just upright and he can't be honest about. He can't have an honest discussion about that.